he's not a white man, you're going to get arrested for that. Is there such a law that says we have to do any of these things? Yes or no? No, there is no law. There's no law, but it's kind of like it feels like a rule because it's kind of in here. And the question is, where does that come from? And I'm going to ask you this very logical question: how many of you grew up and lived in a household where the assumption was at some point you're going to work for a white man? How many of you grew up? How many of you just had this? Just like that was just what people believe. Like, yeah, of course you got to get along with white people. I mean, you got to work for them. You got to go right. And or you think about this, right? We were raised on this belief about, for example, the civil rights movement, that somehow it made sense to go and get your head bashed in just so you can have the right to go into a white man's business and give him all your money. I have nothing against the civil rights movement. I believe they were fully well intended. They showed tremendous courage, but they weren't always fighting for the right thing. And I'm not being radical by saying this. There were people who were right there in the middle of it. Malcolm X was in the middle of it. Dr. Claude Anderson was in the middle of it. And at that time, Dr. Claude Anderson, Malcolm X, and many, many others, millions of other people, were basically stating the exact same thing I'm saying to you right now, which is that makes absolutely no damn sense. They were saying, hey, instead of us fighting to give more money to white people, how about we go build businesses that will give more money to black people? And there were interests outside the community that basically said, don't listen to these people. They're crazy, they're stupid, they're too radical. Right. So ultimately, this idea that you have to serve the opponent, there is no have to in any of that. And if there is a feeling that you have to do this, you have to ask yourself, where did that mandate come from? It doesn't come from the law. It doesn't even come from white people. I don't think a white man. I met a white man in Walgreens yesterday, and he was a very nice guy. He wanted to show me how to play pickleball, which is cool. I said my sister's boyfriend owns a pickleball team, and I liked him. His name was Lawrence, just like my brother. And I said, yeah, I'd like to play pickleball, but there was not one time in this conversation where Lawrence, the nice white man I met at Walgreens, said, boy, you also need to come work for me. Show up at my house around noontime, and I need you to bring some lemonade and come in and be my employee. He didn't say that to me, right? So the question is, when you feel like you have this mandate that we have to work for white people, we got to buy things from white people, you got to ask, where does that come from? Well, so unfortunately, some of that gets perpetuated from us. Let's move on. Um, she talked about also, if you start to equalize and start to catch up, that they're going to burn it down again. And I'm going to add something to that she didn't say. Sometimes, you'll see scenarios where maybe people change the laws, right? And that's fine too, right? They change the laws and say, oh, this way you were making money before, it's now illegal, or whatever. And I certainly agree with that, and that's certainly true. And so one of the things I would say to you is that if you look at all the things that she described, what she's describing actually on one level is risk, and understanding risk management as a critical principle for black investing. Racism is a risk factor, is it not? Oppressive white people, that's a risk factor, is it not? The fact that you're operating on enemy territory is a risk factor, is it not?